Hello and welcome to this podcast. You're listening to Metal Verbalizers and I am Johan. Today I will verbalize a band that is called Riffobia. Riffobia is a thrash metal band from Greece and was founded in 2004. The band has mentioned old school thrash metal bands such as Exodus and Slayer as their main influences. But Riffobia's influences are reaching further than thrash metal. The band has also mentioned Judas Priest and Iron Maiden as main influences. If you're a fan of thrash metal and the type of heavy, rough type of thrash that bands like Slayer and Exodus are pretty much known for, it is a very big chance that you will like Riffobia. I think that you can really notice the Slayer and Exodus influences very clearly in a song like Remnants of Faith, for example, from the band's first album. I can also hear quite a lot of Creator in songs like Faceless. When asked about influences, Riffobia didn't mention any Teutonic bands, but I believe that I can hear a lot of German thrash influences in their sound as well. Something else that I noticed is that Riffobia's sound has kind of like a lot of similarities with the type of new wave thrash bands, such as, for example, the bands that kind of came up in my mind was bands like Warbringer, Havoc, and also in some ways a band like Evil. I would also like to point out that Riffobia was started in 2004, which I believe is the exact same year as Warbringer, Havoc, and Evil, actually. So that I can notice some similarities in these bands' sound isn't very far-fetched, because they were formed literally in the same year. So if you're into a new wave of thrash metal and you're a fan of bands like Warbringer, Havoc, and or Evil, I highly encourage you to check out Riffobia, because I have a feeling that Riffobia is gonna be right the type of thrash that you like. In general terms, Riffobia's lyrics are dealing with the type of like socio-political issues. So Riffobia is a type of like thrash metal band that's going for kind of like a political angle, I suppose you can kind of call it, in their lyrics. But the band are also adding a little bit of their own imagination into the mix of their lyric writing, so to speak. Currently, Riffobia have released 3 full-length albums and 2 demos. The band's first album, which is Laws of Devastation, was released in 2013. The second album, which was titled Death from Above, was released in 2016. And the third album, which is Riffobia's self-titled album, was released very recently, actually, in 2023. I would strongly recommend all 3 of the band's albums, but I would also like to make an extra mention about Riffobia's new self-titled album, so make sure to check that out. When I saw the album cover to Riffobia's self-titled, it immediately sparked my interest for the band. Like a kind of like a dude screaming and holding a bloody knife. Like I personally really love these kinds of album covers with things like denim vests, bullet belts, and stuff like that. In my experience, if an album has an album cover like that, with you know, someone with like a flip up cap and like a denim vest and bullet belt and stuff like that, it is usually a really good album in my opinion. There are many examples of album covers like that. And Riffobia's self-title is definitely not an exception to this. It is indeed a really good album. Without a doubt, I would personally say that Riffobia's self-titled album released this year is without a doubt one of my favorite albums so far released in 2023. So I would highly encourage you to check it out if you haven't already. And when asked about their future, the band answered that they're focusing on promoting their recently released self-title. So it is pretty clear that the self-title released this year is of highest priority for Riffobia, at least for the moment. So anyway, I would strongly advise you to check this band out, because if you're a fan of new wave, this is a band that you absolutely should not miss out on. And with that being said, I believe that it's time to wrap this up. I appreciate you listening, and if you like this episode, then make sure to follow us at Metal Verbalizers, and we will make sure to keep giving you more episodes like this one. If this episode would result in you checking this band out, then please tag us and let us know about it. We would appreciate it a lot, and it is a great way to both support us and also the bands that we're talking about. We will be back to you next week with another verbalization.